Baseline.
Humanity got to a point where it thought it knew best, and then God judged them again. So we could be getting to another point where we think we know best.
The baseline is designed to create an emotional response.
I've seen things you won't believe.
More human than human.
Make you question everything.
Yeah, so my first investment was an absolute fluke. And this is going back, 15 plus years, can't remember, somewhere around then. And my background was in import-export. And someone in passing mentioned to me, said, oh, you should probably be selling on Amazon. So what Amazon FBA is, it means basically fulfillment done by Amazon. So you don't have to stock anything. They do it all for you. So you ship the product in, Amazon sells it, and then they just send you the money.
Nice.
That's basically it. So once I got into the back end of this, and I saw products starting to fly out, like literally, I couldn't believe it. I was like, how is not everyone doing this? They keep the stock for you, and then you've just got to, they sell the item as well. Anyway, so I thought if not everyone's doing this, not everyone's heard of it, maybe there's an investment opportunity. So Amazon had been around for a while, but still, 15 years ago, that was a good investment. So anyway, when you see the returns from something like that, that got me really into investing as a hobby. And so I just taught myself over a couple of years. Yeah.
So you were just you were finding products, you were listing on Amazon, and you were shipping them to some Amazon warehouse, and Amazon would then sell and distribute them, and you would get a percentage off every product.
Yeah.
How does that work with people these days with the referral codes and this sort of thing? Are they valid businesses, viable businesses?
Referral codes. Affiliate marketing. I imagine it is, but it sounds like hard work to me.
But where's the invention? Are you inventing anything?
Amazon FBA. Well, yeah. There's a creative process because you've got to make a product. You're not just actually buying a product. You've got to. As a third-party seller, you've got to sell something of value. So, my background, manufacturing, creating, making stuff. So you create an idea, you find a manufacturer, and you've got to find something unique about it that will sell on Amazon. Not everything sells on Amazon. So you've got to find something that sells on Amazon. And you put your brand behind it, so it's a branded item as well.
And how did you did you test that market? Did you kind of find different products, drop them in and kind of see what worked and then double down on them? How did you end up in recyclable goods and these sort of things?
Actually, you have to do some product research. You have to find out what sells, what is flying off the shelves. Well,
the digital shelf.
The digital shelves, yeah. And then rather than replicate the success of that by improving on what they've already done and maybe making something a little bit different. So there you go.
Nice. And what was your biggest seller?
I actually made a board game.
Really?
Yeah. Which was just a completely new concept. And the reason that was good was because I could pretty much choose my own margins, and it was a quite unique thing that no one else was doing. So the margin on that product was like 200%.
Wow. With this increasing move to digital, even when I was looking at Christmas presents for the kids this year, it's difficult not to just buy credits for FIFA 24, 25, to buy these pseudo coins for computer games, for them to buy a Barcelona strip, not a real strip, but to put on some sort of digital character. There's and it's super high margin, no real asset that you're getting. You're getting some sort of, it's almost like an experience you're buying. A lot of my friends have started pointing at these board games. I think there's a really quite one which is about a train game, Road to Somewhere. There's all sorts of board games seem to be coming out. What's the gift for this Christmas, do you think?
Oh, gosh. What is the gift for this Christmas?
What have you been researching? Is it digital credits for computer games and iPads, or is it actual?
Well, interestingly, this is the first year that we've bought our kids a gaming console. And the only reason we did that is to get them off their phones.
Oh, really?
Because at least it's interactive.
To bring them back to a big screen.
Well, at
that
least we
everybody
can
see.
join in with them, play a little bit. But we were keen not to go digital on anything like that. But yeah, Christmas has become a lot less of a creative process in choosing stuff. The older they get, it becomes a bit more linear, what they want, isn't it?
So are they more vocal in what they want now?
Yeah.
And
I
they're
think
saying
so.
we want credits for this and tokens for that?
Wouldn't go that far, they're girls. But yeah, it's along those lines now.
Are you a bit sad about that? There's almost a sadness I can sense.
Well, I don't do a lot of the shopping, but yeah. Do I want them to grow up? No, I quite like the age they're at now.
Oh, you want to try and retain their personality
Right,
and
the
age.
cuteness and we never used to let them do Christmas lists or anything like that. Wasn't a proper choice per se, but they never used to ask or expect anything, but they do it a little bit more now, I think.
As you get older, I mean, you and I have discussed this over the last few months, and I've certainly seen in a few investor meetings investment moving into kind of two areas. There seems to be two hot topics at the moment. One of them being artificial intelligence, which is obviously what we'll talk about today, but the other one being longevity and health. And even that idea of, there's this point in time that you all want to capture and try and retain as our families or our children, indeed our own health. There seems to be a more vocal narrative, shall we say, about people trying to retain a level of physical and mental capability and avoid that, what I would say is natural degradation of physical and mental capability. So it's kind of, when you think about investments that you've made or founders, are you seeing anything in that longevity space that's interesting? Or like, what are you doing yourself? Are you into that yourself?
Oh God, yeah. I think everyone is these days, aren't they?
Why
It
is
feels
that?
like
Why
it.
has it become a thing?
Well, it's all over YouTube for starters. And then there's the Brian Johnson thing. What he's doing is pretty mental.
Tell me more about it. Is that
Well, I don't know a huge amount, but I mean, he published his biomarkers recently, and I forget what they were, but I think he came up in I think he's in his mid-40s? No, I think he's late 40s, 50, but some of his biomarkers were coming up in their 20s. So that's an interesting experiment, but no one's hacked longevity yet. No one's increasing the length of their life and bragging about it, even from a tech capacity. But I'm sure whoever does.
What are biomarkers?
I think different tests you take, like blood tests, for example, they probably take something from your liver, something from different parts of your body, run it through whatever testing they do and see what your age is at. Physical biomarkers as well, fitness-wise, I can imagine how well you sleep. Telling you pretty much, I guess, what age are you at now? What is your physical age? But I don't think I don't think anyone's really hacked this yet. So that is an interesting space to look at. In fact, that comes up to part of my investment theory, which I'll explain. So, here's my investment thesis. In that we are literally in the eye of the storm of the golden era of innovation, like right now. Not next year. It's right now. Like
When you say eye of the storm, do you mean it's quiet and there's nothing happening?
No. I mean, this is the time that everyone, as far as I'm concerned, everyone should be an investor right now. Because I've never seen an opportunity like this, ever.
Tell
and
me
when
what-
I say right now, I mean before Trump takes office.
What are you seeing? So okay. So you think? Take me through it. So you believe that Donald Trump's going to come in is it February, the inauguration?
No, Jan 20.
January 20. Okay. And that's going to create a inflection point on innovation. Therefore, invest now before that happens.
Yeah. What's happening right now is why this is so crucial is because there are people that are creating the future. For example, Elon Musk and Donald Trump. I'll focus on these two because it's the most obvious, okay? So these guys are telling us right now what they're going to do. Okay, so I've never seen a setup like this.
Oh, transparency on the government. It's crazy.
Not just the government, but so let's where should we start? Okay. So Elon Musk is creating the future. Okay, we agreed on that.
He's certainly part of the people who have the potential to create the future, and he has a strong vision around building cohesive technologies around this inspiring vision of getting people to Mars. So there's a whole narrative. But yes,
Okay,
let's agree.
okay.
Let's agree.
So here's my take on this. Did you watch that We Robot event he did?
Yes.
Right. That was mental, wasn't it?
Robo taxis, robo humanoids.
Okay.
Yes, totally mental.
So I think part of being a good investor at the moment is connecting the dots, looking into the future and looking at what people are saying, especially people of this significance, okay? So what I picked up on was he said that somewhere down the line, we're talking, I think 3 years, there are going to be more robots than humans, right? There are 8 billion humans on this planet. So there are at least going to be 8 billion robots. He then said, this is going to be the best product ever. Like ever. So if you think about the iPhone now, that's probably the most famous product. Would you agree? I think maybe the original
The
Ford,
smartphone has done
the original
phenomenally well.
Ford motor car.
Yeah.
So he's talking something of that magnitude, right? So there are going to be more than 8 billion robots, and it's going to be the best product ever made, right? So who's going to make that? I mean, let's play this out. Who do you think is going to make the robots? The 8 billion?
Well, are you trying to say that Elon's going to build them?
Well, okay.
Because I guess as we sit here, China, I would say, is probably built for high volume electronics manufacturing.
Yeah.
If you look at the powers, the US want to try and repatriate manufacturing to the US, but obviously there's been a seduction to move to low-cost, high-volume production in China, iPhone, all of those devices.
Yeah.
So I guess the answer would be, is it an economic efficiency answer, and I would therefore say Asia, or is it going to be a pseudo-political global power decision, and therefore it will be repatriated to North America?
Well, there's a few things here. There's regulation. So if they are built in China and they want to be sold in the US, for example, they've got to pass US regulations. That's even if the US let them sell them in that country. That's the biggest market, okay? So what do you need to create these AI robots? You need the software and you need the hardware.
Interesting.
And then thirdly, you need the infrastructure. You can't just roll out tons. All these AI startups, robotic startups, fine, make the robot, but you guys have now got to make this at scale. And this is why all roads lead to Elon wins, or at least has first mover advantage, or has the ability to get this stuff out at scale, and he has the brand. It's the new Apple, isn't it? Everyone loves the Tesla brand. So this is the biggest no-brainer I've ever seen. Coupled with sorry, here's part of my thesis. So
While you're looking at that, what Tesla has done to the car industry is fascinating. And I remember when cars used to be assets that had longevity. There was a period of time where you bought a car, whilst we were all changing cars high frequency, the reality was it was some sort of longevity platform, a car. And, you look back pre-2014, you look at the Land Rovers, you look at the vehicles that you would buy, you were thinking, this is 20 years, this is 30 years of usage I'm going to get out of this vehicle. And then something happened, I think, around 2014 and it was predominantly to do with Tesla, because what Musk said was he was going to bring his experience of Silicon Valley to developing vehicles, which is not around longevity. It's around contemporary relevance through high-frequency updates, software updates over the wire. There was this whole issue when he said cars will update over the wire. You'll be able to update your vehicle like you update over your phone. People were outraged. How can you do that? How are you going to drive your car into an update? Right. I'll tell you what, Ross, that happens all the time now. Nobody cares. So socially, we've accepted this idea that you don't buy this vehicle and it's safe and it works for 20 years and it eventually... What we're accepting, we've moved to mobility solutions that have 12 months built-in obsolescence. Because in 12 months, we'll have rewritten the code, we'll have updated it, we'll have enhanced its capabilities, blah, blah, blah. So, the idea of bringing Silicon Valley to vehicle manufacturing was quite shocking 2014, 10 years ago. Now it's the norm. And what's happening all around us right now are the factories that were built for longevity mobility solutions like Volkswagen, they're all closing.
Going to become obsolete.
They're all closing. Yeah. In this race.
Whilst he's got the Gigafactories.
Well, yeah, he's accelerating.
That he's building in less than 18 months.
Well, this is, again, software, high agility. And I want to come back to your question. When you said who's going to build it, as I reflected on this, it comes back to this conversation I was having maybe 2 months ago before the election, was the power AI companies of OpenAI's ChatGPT, Elon's X, which my prediction was if Trump wins and Elon partners, X is going to become a pivotal AI technology within the US government, which I'm sure they'll start using for this DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and also Amazon's Anthropic. The point on your who's going to build the robots, those AIs are all North American developed. And actually, they're already starting to say the Chinese AIs have privacy concerns, security concerns. So we can already see AI as a technology becoming this pseudo-political component.
It's going to be hugely political. Hugely.
Back to your thesis.
Oh, yeah. So where was I? So here's what I think. And I think anyone can become a good investor now. And I'm going to try and simplify this as I would explain to an 8-year-old, okay? So what we've just been discussing were one of my 3, should we call them pillars? I don't know. Things. That was a white swan event, what we just spoke about. And what a white swan event is something so predictable that we just can put all of our money into that and we can just watch it sail off. As opposed to a black swan is something that would be very rare and like COVID comes out of thin air and basically screws everything up. So we're looking for a nice white swan event, okay? That example is one of those for me. We're looking for white swan events, ticking time bombs, and black holes, okay? So an example of a ticking time bomb would be probably the climate crisis, and more relevant to investing, the sovereign debt crisis. I think how much debt is there in the world? 350 trillions worth of debt that governments can't pay off. So if you can solve one of these ticking time bombs, then you've created a black hole where everything gets sucked in. And we're seeing it a little bit with Bitcoin now. And this is why I talked about investing before Donald Trump gets into power. Because another thing he has said, connecting the dots again, is that he's going to make America the crypto and blockchain hub of the world. So he's actually said he's going to do that. Then he said he's considering putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet of the American government. I mean, that is incredibly significant, because if he does that, other countries are going to get FOMO, fear of missing out. And they're going to start to do it. And so this black hole is Bitcoin's just going to keep sucking in more and more liquidity. And it's just going to keep sucking and keep sucking.
Listen, as you know, since 2016, I've been a huge advocate of blockchain and less so cryptographic currencies, but I've always dabbled in that kind of space. But in the last 12 months, I've lost complete faith, because I've failed to get to solution for how the volatility occurs within cryptocurrency. Yeah, I can't. After being in this for nearly 10 years, I still can't understand what levers and what triggers occur that affect.
Because there's not enough liquidity in the market. So that's why it's so volatile. It goes up and down because there's not enough money that's permanently in the system for it to stay in a kind of level playing field. Does that make sense?
But that's surely something to do with the perception of risk. And therefore there isn't a stable view of objective risk around crypto.
Yes, so this is again going back to what will happen after Jan 20th, is that if the American government puts Bitcoin on its balance sheet, it legitimizes the space even more. So we now have...
Certainly in the public eye.
BlackRock now have the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, again, legitimizing the space, okay? And then if other countries put it on their balance sheet after America does, it further legitimizes it, and then it brings liquidity in. We will see over time, I think, it start to stabilize to something less volatile. And we might see only a few projects win over time, and then that will concentrate liquidity in amongst a certain few projects, for example. So we only need to concentrate on the winners anyway.
So are you bullish on Bitcoin and crypto?
Yeah.
Certainly post-January. You think that's going to be...
Well, I think it's another white swan, yeah.
Interesting.
Because of people... The governments across the world can't continue to print money indefinitely. This is the ticking time bomb I'm talking about, because the national debt can't continue to go up, because it doesn't go up forever. There comes a point where you can't afford to pay it because of the interest.
If I just look at when my experience of the application of blockchain as a foundational infrastructure, the challenge there was trying to get networks of people to participate in blockchain networks. So, the challenge has always been with any decentralized system is how do you create network participation? And if you look back 2016, 2017, there was an idea of creating these groups of businesses to avoid disintermediation. That kind of blew up. It just didn't work. That failed. The only successful applications of blockchain have been in some sort of incentivized public network. And I guess my question to you would be that if what you're saying is the US are going to legitimize Bitcoin by putting it on the balance sheet, like that's only good if other countries and governments are therefore incentivized to participate in those transactions.
Yeah, and I can only speak from an investment perspective on this. It's like we're all making bets, aren't we? Do I think this is going to happen or not? Yeah, I do. I'm either wrong or I'm going to be right. But hopefully I'm right.
Well, Musk's always been a huge advocate of...
Well, here's some more dots we've got to connect, right? Okay. So what else did Trump say recently? He came out and made a statement that he will never allow the BRICS to have an alternative currency to the dollar.
The US dollar.
here's the thing. They've been creating something in the background called mBridge. Now, it's not quite a replacement for the dollar, although I'm sure they would have liked to have done, at least Putin would, right? But what it is, the mBridge was a solution to cross-border payments. So here's a few more dots. I hope I don't lose you. So cross-border payments is
mBridge like Swift, because we have Swift for...
It's more complex than that.
Okay.
Swift is basically Swift sends messages around, but it doesn't actually settle. It's not a settling house. That's done by a third party, and that's what takes the time. So the other company doing this right now is Ripple XRP. You heard of that one?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So that does the whole thing. That's the messaging, clearing, settling, cross borders for a fraction of a penny, lightning fast. Okay? That's what they are creating in the background.
So
now
mBridge is some equivalent to Ripple.
Brick's version.
Wow.
Now, this is where it gets interesting. So he doesn't want them to have that.
Trump doesn't.
But he knows they've got it. Now, obviously, he doesn't want the dollar to be replaced. However, this cross-border settlements is important. Whoever wins that now, and he knows, he met with Brad Garlinghouse actually, was it last week? CEO of Ripple. And now David Sachs has just been appointed, what's the position? AI and crypto czar. Pro-AI, pro-crypto, we know that. That's another dot to connect. So he's pro, and I'm not sure if he's connected directly to Ripple CEO, but I know he was friendly towards that situation where they were being sued by the... Who is it? The financial authority in
That
America.
guy's gone. There was one guy who was really he's gone.
This is why the timing is important. So Gensler's gone, and another SEC, and another head of the SEC is going to be appointed after Jan the 20th. So this is all building up to some kind of pro-crypto utopia where there's a very good chance it all might just go a bit mental, as in explode. I'd like to put my chips on that and hope that bet comes in. But it's not a pure bet, and this is what I'm trying to say. There are dots here to connect that they're actually telling us they're going to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so what you're saying is all the signals are there for federal validation of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, for crypto anyway. Yes. So
And the US federal ongoing protection of the US dollar needs to do something in digital, because it sounds like the alternative economies of the BRICS, which is, huge, they need to somehow retain some form of control over that.
Exactly. And I think he might give Ripple the go-ahead. If not regulated by the SEC, and I think that case might have been dropped already, I'm not sure. But I think he might give them the go-ahead to say, right, go out and win this. But just make sure it's backed by the USD.
So beyond blockchain and cryptocurrency, one of the other things you've said is you think AI could be the greatest investment of all time. We're in this kind of eye of the storm.
Yeah.
What specific sectors or technologies do you see as promising? What beyond this whole crypto, financial system?
Going back to decentralisation again, as part of this thesis, is that I've always thought decentralisation was a black hole. And I thought this before AI, because I always thought you cannot trust centralised entities. There's always a point of failure. So when this whole decentralised space came around, it was a proper aha moment for me. I was like, because there's always a point of failure and a lack of trust. For example, let's play this out. AI, the current players in the market, who are they?
OpenAI.
Right, do you trust them?
Google,
Do you trust Google?
Amazon. I don't trust any of these companies.
Right.
Well, what I do is, I suppose you could argue, and this is, if you really question trust, I trust these companies to try and grow their own control and dominance of market share. That's what I trust these companies. These companies are built upon the capitalist ideals of profit. So you look at what OpenAI is doing at the moment. They're using the AGI message to get out of the Microsoft agreement. They're focused on
Who is, sorry?
OpenAI.
Yeah.
And they're focused on growing revenues through, I think they've just released like a pro subscription, which is like 10 times more expensive for supposedly additional capabilities. There was even an article I read about the people who OpenAI are recruiting are coming from advertising leadership positions. And there's a perception that ChatGPT is going to have subtle advertising and product preference within it. So these platforms that have begun in this objective assistant kind of value proposition, well, I'm unsure whether I want to use them anymore if it's a pay-to-play model. So, because then you're starting to see whoever can pay the most for advertising is going to start becoming preferred products.
Well, not only that, it's like, do you want to give money to Sam Altman?
Well, I think from a personal perspective,
He seems like a bit of a dick. So the story goes, Elon co-founded that company, and the reason it's called OpenAI
because it was going to be it was an open
source.
foundation. Yeah.
And then he changed all that, and I don't want to get into any more details. I think there are legal things around that, so I understand. But so that's a bit of a dick move, and so you're now making this. The best AI out there is now a closed, centralized entity for profit. Brilliant.
That's it.
And can we trust them?
No.
Don't know.
Well, you can trust them to be a closed, centralized, profit-optimizing business.
Let's look at the other players. Google. Can we trust them?
Well, proven not to.
Right. Why? Because they censored the conservative right in America. Proven. Okay.
Well, also, their opening gambit was "We shall not be evil" as their business phrase. Anybody who even considers the fact that they shouldn't be evil probably is.
Can you trust Llama 3? Can you trust Facebook?
Well, let's good. That's a good question. So what we've said is Google, Gemini, closed again. And do you know, if there's one thing I've learned from coaching the football, Ross, it's a retreating army is at its most dangerous. And Google are losing market share as people move away from search. So the search engine era is being replaced by the AI. Conversational AI era. So Google are losing. They're going to be hyper aggressive in their pursuit of conversational AI.
Well, here's the other thing.
I wanted to just on Facebook. Yes, I think there have been legal issues. I don't even know what's going to happen.
No, they were caught with their pants down censoring people.
But the Llama 3 large language model is open. That is an open source model.
Okay, fine. But here's the other point. Fine, they're all going to try and win, okay? Elon now has the biggest cluster of GPUs.
Yeah, massive.
Colossus,
Yeah.
right? Okay. There's only X amount of GPUs available. And then to get any of them to reach any sort of AGI, it's almost like a zero-sum game. It's like none of them can win. Who's got the most cash? Who's got the most money to grab all the compute? This is why I'm coming back to decentralization being a black hole. I think there's a cross-section here that I think only decentralized AI can win. For that reason.
Who's going to build that, though? So if what you're saying is we've got these... I'm now having this vision, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying there are these legacy capitalist constructs that are focusing on, egocentric profit. But what you're saying is AI is something so much more important. It demands decentralization and to be prioritized on global successes, climate change, as opposed to individual profiting.
Yeah, totally.
And in that ideal world, though, Ross, who's going to pay to build it?
Right, here you go. So again, if we play this out, like
Because
for me, this only
because everybody
if
on this planet is threatened by climate change, but there's no common funded idealistic situation to fix the problem with the planet. Because people don't like trying to get people to agree that there's a common problem is hard enough.
Here we go. Yeah. So, like, fuck all these companies trying to win AI, and I don't want any of them to win. The only person I could possibly trust is Elon to win that race. Because at the moment, whilst absolute power corrupts absolutely, he's a nice guy now. I think he's generally trying to do good things for the planet right now. I don't trust anyone else. And then you get to nation states. We don't know what China's got. We don't know if they can reach AGI before anyone else. Everyone thinks it's America right now. So, do you trust China to build the first AGI and maybe an ASI? Do you trust Iran?
I don't trust anybody to do it.
Do you trust the
Why
Russians?
do you trust Elon?
Well, like I said, I trust him right now. I may not trust him in the future.
But
Because
what have you seen in terms of body language messaging? Is it just that radical transparency? Is it just that candor? Is it just that openness? So why do you believe that he's trustworthy?
I guess some of it's hunch. And again, going back to that conversation about how OpenAI started, he's
behaviours.
He's been the biggest advocate of regulating AI before anyone was even talking about it. And that's being upfront and honest, and then at the same time building an AGI, right? That's a bit of a dichotomy, but however, he came out and said, it's got to be open source. These other guys, okay, fair enough. Llama 3 might be open source. Okay, great. But at least he said that. Okay, so why not? But then again, I don't want to trust anyone. This is why it has decentralized AI.
I get it.
The only way this doesn't play out badly is if decentralized AI AGI wins now.
But I want to unpick this point because I agree there's a purity and idealism in building of decentralized AI. Coming back to the failure of enterprise blockchain over the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
Decentralized platforms are really hard to build because you got to incentivize participation.
Yeah.
Bitcoin did that through mining and the decentralized nature of transactional validation, right? And people were paid, so there was a financial incentive to participate in that peer-to-peer transaction network. I guess whilst I agree, I'm totally aligned with the fact that decentralized AI and openness around it feels right. How do you drive participation? And how do you drive common need to build that?
God, that's a deep hole to go down.
It's a big, but
Okay.
That's the bridge. Because if you look at history, capitalism has driven innovation, profiting has driven progress.
Okay, so this is why you need a proof of work blockchain or similar.
Can I tell you, if you take the logical conclusion of what you're saying, to move to AI should be a socialist function, it should be a function built around.
Did I say that?
Well, it's either capitalist or socialist, and what we're saying is the capitalist attempts of building centralized profit-making AIs. Do you see the problem?
Look, though, part of me thinks the West has to win this. Oh gosh, I'm going to get into trouble with some of these things. But anyway, the West, secretly, we're all hoping the West wins the AGI race, right? I'm guessing. And maybe that will take a capitalist mega company to win that race.
Which Elon is a capitalist. Let's not forget that.
Oh, yeah.
He's the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
I think on publicly available information, which...
Well, he will be, yeah. Well, I was going to say when he wins the robot race, that's going to take everything to a whole new level.
This point is, you described, and I like the way you described AI as this humanities joint project. So if we actually look at practical application, how do we build global cooperation? How do we build global regulation around this technology?
Really?
You
can't. No. I don't think. because how can you make China comply with what we want here? My theory on this is the only way you can police AGI is with, if anyone wants to make $1 billion right now, you need something like a cyber force, which is an AGI police force, which is the only thing that can police AGI is another AGI. Built, and into it needs to be built intrinsically to snuff out other bad AIs. The only thing that can do that is another AGI. That's what needs to be built right now to police the AI. So that might be able to do something like that. But no, you can't regulate cross borders. So therefore, this is the AI arms race is on, and it's happening. And there's no way China aren't doing their own thing and trying to win. So
that arms race, so where do you see the key applications of that technology for growth? So we talk about using AI, I assume for power. Are you looking at literally head-to-head military applications, or are we looking at space exploration? Are we looking at life longevity? Where do you see? So we talk about this thing AI as a extremely powerful tool, an augmentation.
Well, it might be.
Where is its application, do you see? Like, where are we going to see this arms race surface itself? Because it's not going to be mushroom clouds.
Well, we don't know what true AGI looks like yet. That's the thing. I mean, with the AGI at the moment, we're only looking at LLMs. It could be absolutely unbelievable, the applications of this. I mean, particularly within the realms of medicine, for example, and how it can help us come up with cures for cancer and all these things.
But from a global perspective, does that mean certain countries will have humans who live for 300 years? And if that's the case, is that going to give them a global competitive edge?
So you're talking about when we have symbiosis with the machine.
We're all getting excited about this technology. What will it actually manifest itself as in terms of global competitiveness?
In terms of global, warfare, when you really drill it all down, probably.
So head-to-head, throwing spears. Literally, that's where we're going to end up in terms of that transaction of warfare.
What if the first AGI can disarm a nuclear base?
Well, that completely takes nuclear weapons or explosive weapons as a competitive differentiator on a global scale away.
Well, the thing is,
in some ways, they're so dated. I would question I'll tell you what, Ross. The reality is, the fear of these things is what controls people. The actual perception of their power, which, if you think about nuclear weapons, I don't even want to challenge their practical capabilities because I'm so frightened of their, dystopian potential. So you don't actually want to say it's more of the fear of this than its actual reality. But, if you look at AI, this concept of AGI, is it just the Wizard of Oz? Because there's a big leap between self-thinking machines and the ability to predict language.
Well, luckily, we don't have the compute right now to ever get there, I don't think. And that's, again, why I think decentralisation is the only way that comes about. At least that's my thought anyway. So there's a natural limit on this because, so Elon's got 50,000 GPUs. And that'll let him get to, I don't know, we might have the best LLM, but it's still only an LLM, which is predicting the next word, right? There's no
cognition as such.
Yeah. So the next word is not enough to have critical reasoned thinking.
Bring it down to the day-to-day impact of AI. Where are you seeing it? Like in your, what else are you doing on a day-to-day basis beyond investing that's bringing you into contact with this technology? Are you seeing it at schools? Are you seeing in healthcare? Like, are you seeing this stuff? Are you experiencing the outcome of the application of AI?
No. All I've heard is people talking about they're just using ChatGPT to produce reams and reams of data they need that they would normally do themselves. So it's just a massive time save.
Do you
and to brainstorm?
Do you use ChatGPT
To brainstorm, yeah.
So do you speak to it like another person? Like bounce ideas, get their views, enhance your perception.
Yeah. To save time on brainstorming, that's the only thing. It's like bouncing off another person. Yeah, it's good for that. I like it.
But do you not lose that human element if AI is becoming everybody's primary assistant? Does that not? Do you find yourself reducing human bouncing off ideas and human engagement?
I don't always have another human around to bounce off. And when an idea comes into your head and you think, I've got to research that and I've got to do this, it's just a massive time save. Could phone you up, for example, we could have that chat, but you're probably doing something.
I'm too busy talking to another AI.
Yeah, there you go.
Interesting. So the time save, everybody's using it at the moment, which I worry as a closed model, it's a slight insidious point of control. Do you know? Because it does have subtle political and social agendas. You know, that ChatGPT does, whether you like it or not, it does. But it's very subtly applied. And I always think things that are subtly applied at a mass scale can create hugely different outcomes. Do you know?
Subtly applied at mass scale. You'll have to explain that.
Well, I think that I think there's certain things where ChatGPT, for example, there was one where if you asked it about a specific person, it would kind of crash out. And it was because in the early days of ChatGPT, there were some legal issues around data it had accessed. And what they've done is they've removed that from its memory. So this idea that somehow there was some form of litigation in the early days of, legal data access for ChatGPT to be taught on, there was a certain person who, created a litigation against OpenAI. And when you ask ChatGPT about that, it will not respond on it because it's not aware. So my view is someone somewhere has actively decided to redact data from the knowledge of that system. Now, whether that's true or not, whether that's objective or whatever the legal reasons that data was redacted, it was. And if it's been done once, it can be being done again. And someone somewhere is in control of the information it's been trained upon.
Here you go. Yeah. This is the thing. I don't think we can actually create AGI ourselves. Humanity can't, for that reason you just said. Humanity doesn't even know how our own brain works, but yet we're trying to tell AI, go and work like a brain. We don't even know how the eyes work, really. We couldn't create an eye, we can't create a brain, but that's essentially what they're trying to do, right? The only thing that can create an AGI is AI. It has to discover itself. True AGI. Does that make sense? That's my thinking.
My tiny human brain is unable to process or comprehend. But if it's something that's beyond our own ability to
Well, we're not clever enough to teach the AGI. There's not enough teachers clever enough to teach it. It has to teach itself.
What this does, it bridges to a really interesting conversation I had with VJ. And VJ was like, we need to go beyond science. We need, people from philosophy, from history, from all the elements of the limits of human knowledge to come together and somehow talk about how this thing should be shaped as an extremely powerful technology. It goes because at the moment,
that's quite utopian.
But it's in the hands of the techies at the moment.
This is why you said earlier about the humanities project. This is why I think a huge decentralized. The thing I'm looking for at the moment, the biggest investment I can ever make right now, is if I find a decentralized world computer with AI embedded. Is embedded the right word? Running on AI. So it's got AI at its core. And I think this is possible. And humanity builds on top of this supercomputer, which is decentralized. And yes, you've got buy-in then because we're all motivated by humanity's project. I think this is doable.
The Ethereum was going to be the decentralized computer, but again more for financial transactions. Any attempt at moving it outside financial transactions didn't go far. The one question I would have is that how do you, like, that whole point about humanity's project? Everybody's going to have different views on that. Hey, guess what? There are really bad people in the world who want the end of human. Like, is it beyond your belief to think there are humans on this planet who would take joy in the end of in the end of humanity? Right? No, this is because I think there are. There are. And imagine somebody who's suffered from severe trauma, who doesn't have children, and I'm making global generalizations here, but somebody who isn't invested in the future for whatever reason. And I think children give you a huge investment in the future, like I've personally never felt before. But if you don't have that investment in the future, you're going to be driven potentially to a different humanity outcome than you or I may have.
Listen, dude, this planet's always been evil at its core. From the beginning of time. And there have always been bad actors, and there are bad actors now. And we live in a very precarious situation right now. And so AGI has probably come at the wrong time. Bit fatalistic, but, you know, I'd like to be optimistic. But, I mean, look at what humanity's done to itself just 100 years ago.
What do you see?
Two world wars. And, you know, the invention of gunpowder, that worked out well. You know, the invention of planes, great. Go and shoot at everyone and bomb everyone. I'd like to think there are good people, obviously, and I hope that good people win.
So AI is another tool that's going to be essentially weaponized.
Yeah, that, and the porn industry is going to be big. I mean, that was the biggest use case out of the internet, wasn't it?
Pornography, communication, pornography.
There you go.
Which, you know, we're seeing AI-generated pornography, putting porn actors out of work.
There you go.
So, but then a huge, I mean, I don't engage, but as I see a lot of news around the normalization of OnlyFans and decentralized access to pornography, with people becoming their own studios with the technology and that sort of thing. I'll take your word for that. It was only what you were telling me before we did the recording, Ross. But there's lots of big change. Let's just get to it. So, you know, taking into account this approach where you're looking to invest in humanity's future, you're kind of seeing this need for decentralization around ethical governance of AI.
Yeah, I see it as a double win, right? If I can find that investment, that, because you consider how big that would be, right? What's the biggest company at the moment, right? Is it Apple?
Well, it's Apple, Google.
Apple makes a bloody
tech companies, but I'm not hugely, like Saudi Arabia and China. I don't really know the scale of those.
I think Apple was the first $1 trillion company, right? Okay.
Microsoft 3 or 4 trillion. Nvidia, who builds the GPUs, that's
pretty
huge.
Much there, yeah.
You know,
okay, that is a big deal. To be fair,
foundational tech companies around processors, the stuff that's underneath a lot of this.
Well,
stuff
there's the other white swan is Nvidia. Nvidia and Tesla. If you make 2 bets in your lifetime, there you go. You've got it on a plate. Anyway, getting off track. What were we talking about before?
I was just trying to pull you back to, you know, to this final view of utopia or dystopia.
Hang on. Yes, I want to invest on the side of good, right? And I want the world's best investment opportunity right now. And that is, can you think of how big a world supercomputer would be that you build everything on top on?
Let me ask you a question. If I said to you there's a no-brainer investment in AI military drones, and you would personally 20x your return within 3 months, as an investor, where does personal profit balance with global global ethics?
I mean, to be honest, I'd rather not have AI. I think this is somewhere we shouldn't probably go, but the cat's out the bag. So part of me doesn't care. It's going to happen. Can I make some money from it? Money is not my master. I don't really care about money, really. But do I want to protect my kids' future in some way I can with all these no-brainer situations going on right now? But no, I wouldn't invest in that, no. Because
So you do have a deep ethical compass.
I couldn't live with
moral
myself. No,
agree.
no,
Yeah, I agree.
No.
I mean, I think that we do have moral compasses, which is kind of why those people like that flock together. So back to this question, ultimately, AI, as we sit here now, we're seeing the rapid evolution of LLMs. We know there's a big bridge to AGI. We question the ethical balance of AI being built out of centralized profit companies. We think decentralization is the right way, but there are challenges. Ross, do you think AI is going to take us to a utopia or a dystopia?
Like I said, luckily there are limits with the amount of compute available for an AGI to create a version of itself that would be infinitely more intelligent than your average human. The thing is, if that event did happen, the bad case scenario, it would happen so quick we probably wouldn't even know about it. That thing that's going to happen, we probably wouldn't know about it because, okay, it has access to all the nuclear codes. Okay, we're gone by. So yeah, whatever. I mean, I do feel like if we do get enough compute to play this out, and I think that is achievable through decentralized computation. I do, but hopefully that's the good scenario. The decentralized computation might be able to get us to true AGI. But this is going a little bit deeper. This could be our Tower of Babel moment. Are you aware of the?
No, take me through it.
So biblically speaking, the Tower of Babel was an episode in our past where, okay, just to go back a bit further. So there are times in the biblical history where God judged the earth. This is getting deep now, right? Okay, but when we talk existentially, it's difficult to not touch on these subjects. It goes to your core, right? What are my core values? How existential is this? Well, God has judged the earth a number of times. We go back to the first thing was Adam and Eve. Okay, go right back to that. Okay, and back at the start, so the story goes, is that God walked with Adam through the Garden of Eden. So that's how close man and God were. That's what it's saying. And then over time, through sin, whatever, humanity moves away from God and does its own shit. Okay, and invariably that crap is always bad. Okay, so the first event was the flood. If I'm getting my facts right, that was a big event that killed everyone apart from 8 people by all accounts. Okay, and God did that because the world had become so wicked. Okay, so there's judgment involved in this. There's a good chance God might judge us again before we kill ourselves, perhaps. And then, if you choose to believe in this, after the flood, humanity was built again, okay? And then we had events such as the Hebrews being rescued from Egypt by Noah, out of Egypt. But again, after the Hebrews were rescued out of Egypt, walking around for however long it was it 40 years, they got disorientated with God. And what that's saying again is they were walking close with God after being rescued from Egypt, and they get further and further away again. And now you've got your 10 Commandments moment where Moses goes up one of those mountains. I can't remember what it was.
Sinai.
Good lad. Up Mount Sinai, and God gives him the 10 Commandments to go and read to the Israelites, who by this point are basically having some kind of big orgy and have built the golden calf to worship the golden calf. So again, they've distanced themselves, gone further and further away. We know our own shit. We're going to worship the golden calf instead of the real God.
Which is a
Okay?
representation of materialism.
It's a representation of we are smart enough to do our own thing.
See.
He comes down with 10 commands saying, all right, think you're smart enough. Actually, you're not. And this is what you shouldn't do, and treat you like kids. Okay? Do not kill your neighbor, etc. Love everybody. Don't kill anyone. And yeah, don't build idols. Okay? Tower of Babel moment, the same, is basically humanity got to a point where, whether this story is allegorical or not, I don't know. They built a tower so high that it could reach the heavens. And what basically that was saying is, were they actually building something? I don't know. But humanity got to a point where it thought it knew best. Mm. And then God judged them again. So we could be getting to another point where we think we know best and we're not sticking close to our true humanity, which might just be to have fellowship with God and each other and not to do this kind of shit. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, does it?